Hello and welcome to Claret and Blue and our Inside Bodymoor show for Fulham on Sunday. We've just recorded a kind of bumper chat about AZ Alkmaar, so long in fact that I've had to separate these two uploads. Today we're going to focus on Fulham, what Emery said, the injury updates, our predicted 11, the usual kind of format. Let's dive into the presser then. As we said, it was a dialed back presser, PLP, go there, Premier League Productions. There's a couple of quotes I've picked out that I want to speak about, one that you tweeted so you won't be a stranger to this. Emery says that Villa are not contenders for Champions League football, but Man United and Chelsea are, despite his side's strong side to the campaign. Asked about Villa's progress, he said, I want to win on Sunday, I want to win on Sunday, I want to win on Sunday, no more.
I was listening to it back and I had to unplug my earphones and play it out loud to my partner in the kitchen because I was like, you got to listen to this for Emery.
Are you sure it wasn't like a technical error? The audio just looped a few times.
I hope not, because that would be false information on my part. But no, he was asked basically, are you surprised how well your team's done over the last 12 months and kind of your impact as returning to the Premier League? And he literally just shut it down by, as you say, Dan repeated 3 times, I just want to win on Sunday, nothing else. He's not thinking about competing for the Champions League. He's not I say he's not thinking about it. He doesn't want his players to think about it. And I don't think he wants fans to kind of get up. He wants them to be excited, but he also wants to kind of calm those expectations, which I think is right. However, I think to say that we're not contenders for Europe, and Emery basically thinks that it's the traditional top 6 plus Newcastle. They are the top 7 contenders, which, to be fair, in terms of resources, things like that, yes, he's absolutely bang on. I don't think he can distract people from the stats that he's doing pretty well. only City winning more games in 2023. The points he's collected since he came to the Premier League, returned to the Premier League, I think puts him or Villa in 3rd place, I think. So, yeah, it's not a case of Villa are in good form. We know this already. But yeah, he's trying to just kind of calm expectations and sort of set the kind of precedent of Villa are punching at the moment. And there'll be a point in the season maybe where things don't go particularly well and we might not win in 4, something like that. I don't know. And then he'll look back to those quotes and say, here's what I said previously, Villa... Yeah. We are the kind of underdogs in this race to get 7th, even though, we are looking to maybe get a top 5 finish this season. So, it's all kind of built up towards when we get to March, where are we there? And if we're knocking around those positions, Emery will once again say, we've come this far, let's see what happens. We can only give it our best shot from here, that sort of thing. And I think that's the way to play it. If he said something like, we'd love to play Champions League football this season and, that's what we're going for, all of a sudden the players, their mentality switches. Again, come March, they're feeling the pressure because they think, oh God, what if we bottle it from here, that sort of thing. When in reality, it is the case that Villa are the underdogs in this race. They're playing very well, but there's a long way to go still. And while he said that Villa can dream to do that, yeah, he's right. I do think other clubs are, I don't want to say more capable, but they should be finishing above Villa. United's ambitions every season should be to finish above Villa. Same for Chelsea because they spent £1 billion in the last year. But yeah, Villa, that doesn't stop Villa from finishing where they want to. As long as, I've said it before, as long as we do our thing, we'll finish where we deserve to finish. It doesn't matter what other clubs are doing.
There's a similar quote last year, after I haven't got it word for word, but Emery kind of passed off Europe. We're obviously nowhere near it, were we, at one point? None of us really thought we'd still do it because we had to put such a run together towards the end of the season. But he didn't really talk about it. And then all of a sudden, one week, he was like, "No, we want to get in Europe." It was like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" And when he knows the time to change is there, he's saying at the moment we're not a contender. But if we are 4th in March, all of a sudden he'll be going, "No, we want Champions League." And we're like, "Well, okay, there's that shift again," and he'll know when the time to do that. Yeah,
exactly. It turns kind of turns that mentality around. And at the moment, we're punching. I say punching because we want to kind of relish that kind of tag of being what Newcastle were last season. Of everyone's expecting them to fall out and everyone's not expecting them to win so many games, but because we've proven that we have, I think we know deep down that we're capable of doing it. But it's another thing being that team and kind of having that pressure and taking that mantle. That'll come later in the season if we are in this position still, and that's something that we'll have to deal with. And that's when I think it would get tricky to do what we want to do this season. But up until then, we can only give it our best shot. And I think that's what Emery is basically alluding to. We can only dream. We can only play every game, kind of concentrate on the next one, concentrate on Fulham. That's all we can do up until, as you say, Dan, the point in which he then says, all right, we've got 10 games left of the season. Let's go for it. And then that switches the whole mentality. Then all the fans, like they were last season, were kind of pushing towards Europe because that was the plan, that was the ambition, and everyone realised it. But we're so far away from that point this season. Of course, we're only 11 games in, 12 games after Fulham, I think. So yeah, he's just trying to calm expectations, but I think everyone knows deep down that we've got the capability of doing it. It's just how do we go about it?
Another quote, just very quickly, so I'm aware that we need to move on a little bit. I'm always trying to be consistent with my plan and trying to be better today than yesterday and tomorrow better than today, which I also like. But that kind of self-improvement, and we want to improve as much as you'll kind of downplay expectations, underneath that is this kind of bubbling sensation of, no, well, we need to be better than we are doing it. And if they can continue with that, they will climb the table as a result of just improving over the course of a season.
Yeah, and I believe him. I think Villa can improve from here. And well, we've said before, Dan, like, Ramsey hasn't, well, he's played this season, but he hasn't, come back from his injury yet. Moreno hasn't played at all this season. So there's so much there's so much more than that this team can give. After Villa lost against Forest, Torres, I know it was only a tweet, and but he said that this team's got so much more to offer, and I think he's bang on. That this team is only going to improve. The new signings have only been here for 11 games in the league anyway, so they're adapting. There's a new structure happening. That Emery's built. I don't doubt that next pre-season there'll be another layer of complexity to it. I don't know how that's going to look. Maybe we'll start our high line in the opposition half. I don't know. But it's just very exciting. And at this point in time, I can't see someone like a Brighton or West Ham finishing above Villa unless we completely prioritise European football towards the end of the season. I don't know. But you just think that we are a top 7 team at this moment. I'm not saying we're a top 5 team, although we're there at the moment. You can see maybe a Newcastle finishing above Villa. You can maybe see Man United, potentially finishing above Villa if they have a run, at some point. I don't know. What are they, 3 points behind us, considering they've had such a bad season? But I think we're a top 7 team at the moment. Although Emery says different, we're above Chelsea, put it that way. And it's just whether we can, keep it consistent throughout the season. And if we can, we'll be okay. But we spoke in the last, I think it was the Monday show we last did, didn't we, about our kind of what would we take this season. And I think we both agreed that top 6 would be, super. It doesn't have to be Champions League this season. Europa League would mark improvement.
It's 4 points ahead of Man United, but our goal difference is superior. So kind of 5 for them to actually.
Isn't that quite, to me, that's quite like, because United have had such a bad season. They seem to lose every week.
An important gap is what it should feel like, really, on the kind of how the two fan bases feel about their respective clubs. But
exactly, and that's
United
why
are possibly a takeover and a managerial change away from actually finishing the top 4 because they should be doing better than they are.
And those clubs, they can go through bad patches for a few weeks, and they'll bounce back the next season and finish 2nd or 3rd. It doesn't last for long for those teams. Villa have to remain consistent, have to make the right decisions on pretty much everything to stay where they want to. But as I said, after the defeat to Forest, it was more frustration for me that Newcastle have gained points, United have gained points, Chelsea have gained points, although I think we'll finish above them this season. It's still, you want to just keep that gap rather than us thinking, let's go into 3rd, because we're not finishing 3rd this season. Let's just try and finish above those teams around us. And like Tottenham losing players, that shows what can happen in the season. That could happen to Villa. I know we've lost big players at the start of this season, but you don't even think about losing a Torres or a Konsa or a Watkins or something for 2 months, like they've lost Maddison, Van der Ven. No one likes to see players get injured, but it's a bonus for Villa that they won't be having Maddison and Van der Ven, Romero, other players as well for that game in a few weeks, because obviously that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And those kind of injuries can derail it an entire season. Like Spurs are top at the moment, but they could be 6th or 7th come the turn of the year. They could have a drastic drop off over the next 6 weeks or so. Let's do the injury update then. We can do this one pretty quickly, I think. Moreno is obviously back on the bench now and available, I guess. Although I don't think he starts on Sunday. Diego Carlos, though, is the one I want to mention. Obviously, he came off yesterday. It's one that we're all kind of hoping isn't anything too serious.
Yeah.
That's the case, isn't it? We think.
Yeah, basically, he would have had some tests and stuff this morning, but Emery seems to think it's just a small injury and he probably won't play against Fulham. But he wouldn't have started anyway, I don't think, Carlos. So he'll play in the next Conference League game, which would be in 3 weeks' time, I think, against Legia at home. So he should be fine for then, and everything else is okay. Moreno could get his first minutes of the season against Fulham. Emery did say that he's kind of ready to. Not just ready to be in the squad, but he's ready to play now as well, which I thought that's kind of interesting, basically saying that he probably wasn't ready in the last 2, but he's confident and happy for him to play now. And we said before, didn't we, Dan, about Moreno needing those minutes before he starts against Tottenham, and straight away he's facing 10 minutes of whoever it may be, Ben Johnson down the right, which you don't want. You want him to play against Fulham if possible, and hopefully Villa return it up by the 60th minute. So that's something that can happen. But Premier League games are never easy. So
as we said earlier, if that Clement Longley goal went in and we are 3-0 up on the 70th minute yesterday, I think Moreno would have come on and play for 20 minutes, but that's not the way the game planned out, and it wasn't his time on Thursday night, and that's just one of those things. That's it for the injuries, though, so let's move on. You mentioned Moreno starting, so let's do predicted 11. That's slightly out of order for the show. Do you think he starts on Sunday or not?
No, I would have thought it's going to be the same team that played against Forest. Maybe he plays Leon Bailey instead of Zaniolo. I think that's probably the only sort of discussion in these match 11 in these predicted 11 discussions. I think that's probably it, Dan, unless I've missed someone. What do you think?
Tielemans obviously played well again on Thursday, but I just don't think there's a space for him. He's not going to start over Louise, and I don't think he'll start any further forward. I don't think Bailey had a great game on Thursday night, and then Zaniolo came on. I don't think he did himself too many favours either, really. So it's a toss of a coin, really, which of those two players. And we've said before, they're a bit of a sticky situation that both look better off the bench. But then if neither of them do anything great, it's kind of like, well, one of you starting next week because Ramsey's still not available. It kind of leaves us in a bit of an unfortunate situation.
I think Bailey could have a good game against Fulham, actually. He's done okay at home this season, Bailey, and he's getting contributions still. Obviously got an assist on Thursday, though you're right, he probably didn't have his best game. But just got a feeling that if he starts on Thursday, put him again on the left, and then see what happens. He can link with the RB and Cash going down the right as well. I'd be happy with that team, those 10 players plus Bailey rather than Zaniolo, I think.
I mean, if Diego Carlos was fit, you could argue Carlos and Torres, Conte right back and Cash on the right side, McGinn on the left, maybe, but Carlos isn't available and he's not going to play Torres and Longley, so it's going to be as we were, and it's up to Zaniolo or Bailey to prove their worth, I guess, and show why they should be the one that's starting of the two for now. Sadly, there's no opposition preview this week. There's a lot of Fulham podcasts out there, and I did approach a couple, and they just didn't get back to me in time for recording this, sadly. It's been a very busy week for various reasons, so not had the time to do that for this one. So we've got predictions and away from match day as our final two little topics. So we'll do away from match day. And we said before we started, what are we going to talk about this week? What do we want to do? But let's talk about the Douglas Luiz links to Arsenal again. And I think we can do this section pretty briefly as well. So Fabrizio Romano tweeted maybe yesterday or the day before that Arsenal would still be interested in January for going for him, but it cost a big fee to get him out of Villa. I've seen some Arsenal fans suggesting, let's just go back in with 30 million like we did in the summer of 2022. That will get him.
Is that true? 30 million? Is that the...
Well, this is Arsenal fans. Yeah, they don't think he's worth any more than that, which is utterly bizarre unless they're just on the wind-up. I think we can just notch that down as nonsense. Douglas Luiz is not going to leave in January, and if he is, it's 100 million, which Arsenal, for one, are certainly not going to pay.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. Not in January. As we mentioned earlier, Luiz is very happy at the club, which, I mean, we've seen that before, but he's happy at the club, not just because he said it, but because we can see his genuine progression. And as I say, he's back in the Brazil team now, so there's not that thought of, I must leave Villa to get a Champions League club and kind of impress the Brazil manager. Then I don't think that's the case. He's going to have interest from a number of clubs. I said earlier that he can probably play in almost any team. He'd be a strong addition to any squad in European football, in my opinion. I genuinely think that he's that good now, and Villa are aware of that interest, and that's why they put him down on a new big contract last year after rejecting 3 bids from Arsenal. So I thought that was Arsenal's time to buy him. You've kind of got to wait. You got to wait your turn now, sort of thing. I don't think you can then just come back in January and say, here's 40, 50 million for Luiz. We'll just say no, because that's nowhere near his valuation for a start. But also, why would we derail our season in January? That makes no sense. I think even if you put in that huge bid of, I don't know, 70 million, let's say, I'd still reject that, because what are we going to do in January that's going to replace Douglas Luiz? Even with 50 million, it ain't going to happen. Ward-Prowse was 50 million a couple of years ago. Do you know what I mean? And by that I mean Ward-Prowse isn't as good as Luiz, so we're not going to improve our team or even replace Luiz with that sort of money. Next summer, again, there'll be interest, and it won't be Luiz, it'll be interesting. Watkins, it'll be interesting. Martinez, it'll be interesting. All those. We're lucky that in the summer there wasn't, a mad kind of clamour for all of our players, and again, that's probably testament to the business we've done in terms of keeping them on contracts and whatnot. but that'll come at some point, probably next summer, as I say, depending on what Villa achieve. But yeah, Villa have got the cards in this situation, and teams are going to have to pay huge dollar to get these players out of Villa, and especially someone like Douglas Luiz, who I say is 25. He's got massive career ahead of him. He's got 10 years left. I don't think he'd be in a rush necessarily to play Champions League football, especially as he sees how Villa are growing. If he wanted out, he would have said that. He would have made sure that he got that move to Arsenal when they bid for him 3 times, managed by Arteta, who we know as well from Man City. The move makes sense in terms of, last year. No, I don't think it does, because Villa are simply not going to sell in January, and Arsenal will have to pay huge money in the summer to get him, which, if they want to do that, they'll do it, and they might get him, under no illusion of that whatsoever. But I don't think Luiz will be kicking up a fuss if Arsenal aren't paying what Villa want for the player. If they do, he might go. As I say, that's the kind of business of being a well-run football club. If your players are improving and then teams put in massive offers that you can't refuse, that's business. Villa will back themselves to replace Luiz with 2, maybe 3 players who can do a job. And kind of replace his impact. And again, we haven't seen what Emery can do with huge funds yet, in my opinion. We've seen obviously Torres come in for about 30, Diaby for a similar fee. We haven't hit a £50 million player, that sort of thing yet. And for a club that wants to strive to get into the top 6 consistently, like a West Ham have done in previous years, that's what we're going to have to start to do eventually. And yes, you have to sell players for that to happen, but Villa won't want to part ways with Luiz unless it's, as I say, for huge money. And that will only happen in the summer, I'm sure.
Let's do predictions then for Fulham. Do we want to go through the predictions for Forest, or should we just pretend that never happened?
Oh, yeah, I can't remember what did you predict on? I mean, I know I predicted 3-1, and I think I know what you predicted as well. So,
I said 5-0. Somebody bumped into me at Villa Park on Thursday and said, "Don't ever say 5-0 again. The less said about that, the better." And I said, "Yeah, I will just say less in future."
Can we give you minus points for that prediction?
No. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. Right, so obviously no points for either of us last week. We both predicted Villa to win, and obviously Forest beat us 2-0. And we don't do the European games in terms of predictions for this little scoreboard that we do. It's Fulham at Villa Park on Sunday. Villa can make it their 12th win in a row.
13th, I think.
13th win. 13 wins in a row it will be if Villa beat Fulham. Are you going for that 13th win?
Yes, I think you have to back Villa for this one. I think, to be fair, Fulham have been that team that they were, similarly to last season. They're very well organised under Silva, and they're going to be hard to beat. I don't think this is a game that Villa win, 3-0 or 4-0, anything like that. I really don't. I think it will be a game that will be very cagey and very tight. But God, I'd take a 1-0 right now, and it comes off Ollie Watkins' backside. Anything really. Just get to the international break with a win. Players can go off to wherever they need to go to for the international break. No injuries. The players can refresh that aren't going abroad. That's what we need at this point, I think. And then you can hit the December fixtures, the festive fixtures, knowing that we're in the where would we then if we win? I think we could go up to 3rd. I don't think that'll happen, but we'll pretty much stay where we are. But as long as we're just chipping away at points and wins, I'm happy with that. So my prediction will be a 2-0 Villa, I think. 1-0 up until the last 10 minutes, and then a counter-attack, 2-0. Hopefully a clean sheet as well. We need that, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, clean sheets are hard to come by at the moment, but that is important. They've got to start racking them up at some point. You're right that Villa could, in theory, rise as high as 3rd, but that would mean Arsenal and Liverpool both dropping points to the extent of actually losing. I think if they both drew and Villa won, they'd still be behind them.
Pretty straightforward games, if I'm not.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me. Arsenal have got Burnley at home, and Liverpool have got Brentford at home, so I'd expect both of them to win. Man United have got Luton at home, so I expect them to win. Newcastle are away at Bournemouth on the Saturday tea time kickoff, and Chelsea host Man City on Sunday after us. So it'd be nice to gain a bit more ground on Chelsea.
I think that's why
7 points a bit ahead of them already.
I think that's why this is such an important game for us, because I expect all those teams to win, maybe apart from Tottenham. That would be a really difficult game for them at Wolves. Wolves don't tend to lose too many games at home, but yeah, we need to win because we're going to lose ground if we don't lose ground on the teams above, and then teams below us are going to go above us if we don't win, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 Villa. I don't think we're going to quite work out how to keep a clean sheet. It's a pretty popular scoreline to go 2-1. So 2-0 for you, 2-1 for me for Fulham at home.
I was just I did see that Adama Traore could come back to their 11, their matchday squad. So I don't think he'll start, but me. Oh, sorry for swearing, but that high line against the Roadrunner. Oh my god!
If he gets
There's a lot of it,
finished though, his end product's not there.
Oh yeah, of course.
Absolutely, I've absolutely jinxed the fact that Adama Traore scored one goal in my prediction now.
Yeah,
for
we've cursed ourselves there, haven't we?
Yeah.
But no, it is risky, but it does work more often than not. Oh, we've really jinxed it there, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we should let's end the show before we dig a deeper hole than we need to.
Can I give a quick shout out as well? If that's okay.
Of course, yeah, go for it.
A shout out to Kieran. He tapped me on the back in the press box. I was just filing my report, and he said, thanks for the podcast, and he enjoys it. So yeah, thanks for the support, Kieran, and nice to meet you briefly.
Right, John, thank you very much for joining me on this Inside Bodymoor show. People will be able to see we recorded all this in one session, but it was such a long recording thing that I've wanted to split it into 2 episodes, an AZ Alkmaar preview, an AZ Alkmaar review, and a Fulham preview as 2 separate entities. So, John, thanks for giving me so much of your time this afternoon. If people have enjoyed this, do let us know. Get your score predictions in the comments as well. There's no post-match reaction on Sunday afternoon, so our next show will be the Monday show, and we'll debrief Fulham in that episode. So stay tuned to all things Claret and Blue, and we'll see you again very soon.